Hello, Heather Spiess. Welcome.
Hi, Sam. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Before we get into this, I do want to congratulate you on being the 2023 KBH CPAWSB Facilitator. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Core 1 is very, very hands-on as a facilitator. Would you
It
agree?
is. I would agree. I would agree. I feel like candidates, they're coming from university or working for a few years, and it's such a different environment, different learning environment, different challenges. So there's definitely a lot of guiding and mentoring that we need to do. But I think that's why I like it so much.
Well, can you maybe just bring us through a brief introduction to yourself and your background, and maybe how that relates to all the value that you bring as a Core 1 facilitator?
My background. Okay. Well, I started facilitating when my firstborn daughter was 1 year old. So 18 years ago, because she's going to be 19 now. Yikes. So I've been facilitating 18 years. And I think it just really started. I was working full-time in public practice before that. And I was a mentor to students in the accounting firm I worked with. So it seemed just like a natural transition into facilitating. And I've never looked back. It's been wonderful. I have 4 kids now, so very busy family.
Have you taught any other modules, or have you stuck pretty close to Core 1?
I've stuck pretty close to Core 1 just because I love it so much. But I did do Core 2. I felt like I couldn't provide as much knowledge to or guidance to the candidates with Core 2 because it was more of the managerial accounting, whereas Core 1 really comes from my background is. I worked in the assurance department at work, and there's a lot of, I think I would branch out to try another module, the assurance module. However, at this point in my life with 4 kids, to take on a new one, I think would be really hard. I also did the capstone module once.
I will say I have stuck away from Core 1. And not necessarily, I like the workshops, but online facilitating, I have to say, and I give kudos to you and a handful of other facilitators who I see regularly in Core 1, because I find it really overwhelming, the volume of questions. And, I deal with policy related at different levels, and I really enjoy helping there. However, yeah, I just find like you need to be a special kind of facilitator to have the patience. And as much as I love what I do, I don't have that skill set. So I just want to say like kudos. Tell me about your journey from either university or college into becoming a CPA or legacy CA. And possibly, were you born to be an accountant? Did you know from day one? Or how did you find the path?
Absolutely not. I remember graduating high school thinking, now what? What am I going to do? And I didn't want to take a gap year because I was really gung-ho. So I started out taking biochem, and I did a couple years as a biochem major, and I absolutely hated it, but that's what all my friends were doing. So I thought I would do it. Then I switched to just biology, and I think I counted about 1,000 cactuses on the side of the coulee one day and realized this is so not for me. Then I actually switched into education, which is ironic that I'm kind of in a form of that now. But I realized that I was placed in a grade 2 classroom, and I realized grade 2 kids are not for me. I love them, but definitely not my calling. So I think at that point I just felt like, what am I going to do? And my mom said, go into management. I think you'd be good at it. And I thought, what the heck? Let's just try it. So started off in my management degree, and I seemed to really like the accounting side of things. So I kind of just said, okay, I'm just going to keep going with this accounting thing until I fail. That was sort of my plan, because I seemed like I wasn't doing well with other things. But then I kept passing, and I'm like, oh, I guess maybe this is what I'm meant to do. But actually, one of my first jobs was in the bankruptcy department, and that was an eye-opener. Basically, just preparing the tax returns for bankruptcy clients. So it wasn't anything too in-depth, but I think it was eye-opening to see how much people don't understand about their finances. And that was something that motivated me to want to help people, I guess, but I never could really figure out how I could help them in my field. And then once I obtained my designation, then the mind started thinking, how can I help? How can I help? And then it just seemed natural that I do love help. Like, I liked my little stint in education, but not with grade 2s, as I mentioned. So then it just seemed like a natural fit to try the facilitating side of things. And I feel like as a facilitator, I can help. I can fulfill that need in me, right? To do something good.
Did you ever perform an inventory count? And if so, what was it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I did. So I'm in Southern Alberta. So there's a lot of cattle farmers down here in Southern Alberta. And one of the most adventurous inventory counts I did was actually counting cattle. So it was on December 31st. We had to go to a huge feedlot operator to count cattle, and I had no idea what to expect. I remember going out to buy big, thick, heavy-duty rubber boots because I was warned ahead of time. And when I arrived, they handed me a whip, and I'm like, what do I do with this? I had no idea. And they're like, no, like, you're getting into the pen with the cattle, and you're gonna like yell at them to get all the cattle out of the pen, and then we count them as they go back in. And it was definitely an experience. I remember wanting to walk along the fence, because if ever you've seen a pen of cattle, they all kind of go to the center of the pen, and that's where all the I don't know how to say it politely, but all the poop is kind of piled there in the middle. I wanted to walk along the fence, and the rancher who was there with me, he's like, you can't be by the fence. That's the most dangerous spot. You have nowhere to go if a cattle chases you. So he made me walk through the middle with my whip, and I'm whipping cattle, like trying to get them. And I, at the end of the day, I took those boots off and I put them in a garbage bag, and I never looked back.
Okay. So if at any point while you're walking through the middle of the cattle pen, were you thinking that the cactuses weren't that bad? Like, were you like looking back and you're like,
yeah.
It's only 1,000. They didn't move.
I don't think it was better than the cactuses, actually, or cacti. Is that the appropriate?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think you beat me. Mine was counting fertilizer in drums, except it was smoldering. So it was like effectively counting burning poop, which like I found out later is dangerous. But the worst part was, no, this was like mid 2000s. And yeah, and it was New Year's Eve day. So I couldn't go out because I smelled like the middle of a the middle of a cattle pen. Interestingly enough, did your expectations of being an accountant match the reality of being an accountant?
I kind of went into this thinking, well, I enjoy it, but I hadn't formed anything. But I guess if I think about it, it probably exceeded my expectation, because I really didn't know what I was entering. But once I started in the program and then graduated, I didn't realize how many doors would actually open up for me, how many opportunities there'd be. I feel like I could do anything I wanted now, really. So definitely exceeded my expectations, I guess. And sometimes I think some people say, if you could do so many things, why are you just doing what you're doing? You know, like, but you have to love what you're doing, and I love it. So maybe someday I might try something different, but.
Yeah, I think that this is also a really good place to learn and grow while helping other people learn and grow, and interacting with the other facilitators, which we sometimes get to do, and see what they're up to, seeing what our candidates get up to. So I don't think it's the end of the road, unless like that's what you want. And I think that that's perfectly great as well, right? So tell me a little bit about your first module. Can you remember your first module teaching?
Oh my goodness. I do, because it was a blur, because my daughter was 1, and she was, so I started it when I was still on maternity leave. I started my training, and she was such an active little girl, but she slept 12 hours a night. So I can remember, she was so active during the day, never napped, but slept 12 hours a night. So I can remember sitting at my computer. Thank goodness I was young, because I had so much energy, but I would my best work times would be from about like 11 p.m. till 4 a.m. And that's when I worked. I remember at the time, I think I had about 5 students only, or 5 candidates. And thinking, oh my goodness, this is so much work. This is so much work. But then as I developed and learned how things worked, it got easier. And now it's what I do. Well,
Please tell me about being nominated for this award and winning it. How does it feel to be the KBH Outstanding Facilitator Award recipient?
oh my goodness. Honestly, I was in shock. I remember sitting on the couch and I was going through my emails. My husband was home from work and I read it and I was like, what? And I guess I like to be behind the scenes and I'm fairly confident, but at the same time, maybe that's a struggle I have is the confidence. So I always start, am I really doing a good job? Am I meeting the students' needs? Am I, in the environment that we work in, yes, we get our annual or our reviews after each session, but I don't actually ever get to see the candidates. So you always question, like, are they just saying thank you? And so it's just a tough environment because you never really know.
Yes.
So I was completely shocked that I got this award and very, very humbled. I don't know if I'm deserving of it. I work with, like, there's so many amazing facilitators out there that I honestly think that everybody deserves this award. The time and hours that the facilitators put in and the care that they have for the candidates, I wish everybody could get it.
Really, it just shows the collective strength of who the facilitation team is, who the contractors are for our candidates. I know that there's going to be a candidate watching this, if not many, that they too prefer to be behind the scenes, and maybe you help give them the confidence to take a step out. Perhaps do a lunch and learn at work, or help mentor their peers. And I think it's really, really cool that we can lift each other up and provide that to our candidates as well. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you share some of the common challenges that candidates face in CPA PEP, and how do you help them overcome these challenges?
Okay. I think as a CPA candidate, I mentioned before, like, some of them are coming out of university, some of them have been working for quite a while. And I think just the desire to be a CPA, it's because you want to be successful, right? So they've obviously had success in what they've been doing because it's a difficult journey. So they were very successful in university, they were successful in their employment. So they come in and they just think that they're going to be successful in this too. And I don't think they realize the first week when they get their first their cases back and they don't have C grades for everything, suddenly they feel, I can't do this, I'm not successful. So just helping them to see that they can obtain these higher goals, but it's a different learning process. It's going to take a lot more effort, I think, for most. At least it did for me.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely have to apply myself differently. I couldn't just kind of casually get by. Definitely have to apply yourself. But helping them to see that their expectation is not it's not realistic. It's just it's going to just be a different process. And if they keep building on their feet, like every week they're going to learn something. And if they invest the time to apply what they've learned into future weeks, they're going to see that success. And earlier than unit 8, right? They'll see it. They'll see the journey.
So with candidates having diverse learning styles, how do you adapt your facilitation methods to ensure inclusivity and effectiveness?
I definitely see that different candidates have different learning styles. So just trying to provide them with many opportunities to communicate with me, and just, I send out weekly tips. So some candidates I know don't read it, some do. Some find it very helpful. Summaries of the week, just the actual feedback guides. I go and I check, and I do see that some candidates never actually read the feedback guides. But I think that for those that do, I can see because they're asking me questions about the feedback guides, and then I know and how to help them more that way. So I think just providing a lot of different ways to give feedback through the actual guides, through the emails. If I see a candidate is struggling reaching out specifically to that candidate. They don't communicate with me. You know, I try at the very start of the module, I try to, well, I send a personalized email to everyone, and I might get a handful of people that actually reply. But throughout the module, if I find that some candidates are struggling and don't communicate with me, just sending out more emails saying, hey, how's it going? You know, I see that you're struggling with this. How can I help you? A week after Unit 4, I try to send an email to all candidates again and say, hey, how's the level of feedback? Like, do you want more? Do you want something different? Because I'm always willing to adapt to a candidate's needs. But also, do you have any questions? And you're right. It's at that point where it's like, well, actually, I do have questions. And some candidates will send me a whole page of questions. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't mind answering these, but it would be a lot easier if you did it week by week. I just
Yeah,
kidding.
for both of you, because like you're going to put this like very detailed response,
right?
Yeah.
They don't know the answers and they stew on them and they question.
Yeah.
So I try to encourage just, you know, and just to remind the candidates, like I'm only one of their tools. I mean, the discussion board I find is so beneficial. A lot of questions that they're struggling with, somebody else will have already posted it on the discussion board.
As a whole, candidates don't necessarily use each of the resources or find the right resource or mix of resources that works for them across the board. So they don't use their facilitator as much as they may in later modules, the discussion board, you know, the ebook, even the handbook. Some candidates are in Cap 1 and figuring out how to use or how to utilize the handbook for their studying purposes. So, you know, I would say, is it fair to say that, you know, perhaps candidates can leave some extra study time to figure out what resources work for them, and that would be a good investment of time in Core 1 that would follow through the rest of the modules.
Definitely, I would agree with that. I'm a big fan of the ebook. I love the ebook. I find it's just written in just such an easy to understand way. So I definitely encourage my candidates to use the ebook.
Even though you first became a facilitator in a legacy program, you have mentored CPAs, new aspiring CPA facilitators through our training. You know, initially that training looked like where new facilitators would come for a day or a weekend, and at every table there'd be a mentor and then the training hosts. And during COVID, we did similar things online. So assuming that it stays similar to that, perhaps it'll change or evolve. What advice would you give to CPAs or current candidates who, once they become CPAs, have an interest in becoming an online facilitator? Do you have any advice to them to kind of, you know, get ready or get in the mindset or anything that they should kind of consider before taking those steps?
I think my advice would be is if you want to give back, definitely do so, because it's those CPAs who have that desire to want to give back that are going to make the best facilitators, I think. Definitely talk to your employer first, though. I mean, there's some employers who have rules against being the ability to work for someone else or do something else. Talk to your employer. I feel like most employers would find it really beneficial because then you can help mentor some of the candidates in the office, right? Depending on your life, you need to make sure you have the time to dedicate towards it. It's not something that you can just do in your spare time and think that you'll do a good job at it. You have to dedicate time to it, definitely. So look at your whole life and say, where will I do this? Is my employer going to be flexible with me to have time to do this? But if it's something that you feel tugged towards or called to, I think go for it, try it. But the one benefit of being like a facilitator is you can literally do it anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
anywhere, anytime.
Exactly, anywhere, anytime. And if you want to do an 8-week, like one course, and then you want to take some time off, that's okay too, right? It really fits your lifestyle. I remember we went to Hawaii and we wanted to go for the whole summer. So I was like, well, I don't want to like totally step away, but I only took 5 candidates and it was great because I would get up and enjoy the sunset and I would do my work. And then everybody else would start to wake up and then we'd go for the day, right? So literally anywhere, anytime.
So with that, how do you juggle work life and being a CPA educator?
I ask myself the same question a lot. Let's say I keep a very detailed day timer and I have everything scheduled, and I like with our family, my kids are super involved in every sport possible. They all play basketball, they volleyball, badminton. My husband and daughter coach. Like come 5 o'clock, it's go time. And so I have to put self-imposed deadlines. So um for anything. So if a deadline is actually Tuesday at midnight, in my head, it's not Tuesday at midnight, it's Monday at midnight. Do you know what I mean? Because you
Yeah.
never know what something unexpected might happen. And it also helps. I'm somewhat introverted, but at the same time, I have a lot of energy. So if I'm always going. I love to be busy, right? So that makes it easy to juggle when you love to be busy. I love volunteer work too. So somehow I still do that, and I volunteer for I'm the board member of a basketball club here in our city that runs 17 different teams, and it's just like, I don't know, I like to be busy. So the juggling is not that hard. And I have a very supportive husband. So
We've talked about our program. We've talked about how it has been evolving and changing, both from the legacy to the current, and those steps have been incremental. Perhaps more recently, with different technological as well as different standards, it may feel to some, including myself, that we're accelerating in our times. So my question to you is, what emerging developments in the field of accounting should CPAs be attentive to, in your opinion?
I really feel that like technology is just increasing at such an overwhelming pace. And I really think that we need to be mindful of AI, artificial intelligence, like specifically to facilitating. I wonder how I'm amazed at how I can type in any topic and a whole essay is just made for me, right? So I don't know how that fits into the accounting world, but I definitely think that as functions are becoming more automated, we just need to know how to adapt, and like data analytics, and like there's so much technology that we can utilize.
Like, I'm really excited to see if the program integrates some large language learning models like ChatGPT into, or like a function, an interior function thereof, because having candidates, be able to grade, a response, or, just getting to apply that knowledge in different ways. I think it'll be eye-opening to candidates and to our colleagues how much room there still is to grow, and then how we can kind of integrate those different tools into our program if we decide to go that model.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts or words of encouragement for individuals on their CPA candidacy journey?
It's hard. It's going to place a lot of demands on you. There's going to be a lot of times where you're trying to juggle your personal life, your work life, your study life. But in the whole big picture, it's just such a small portion of the time, and it's going to open so many opportunities. So I think push through, definitely keep trying, don't quit, don't say I can't do this. You've made it this far. You can do it. Apply everything you learn. Listen to your facilitator, listen to your mentors, listen to your peers. Keep working hard. We talked about time management, but try to have time for yourself still. I think that is so, because I think to be successful, you can't be burnt out. So find a way to balance that time. If you love going to the gym, make sure you still go to the gym. If you love hiking, go hiking still. But you will have to definitely put a lot of time into it, but it's worth it.
Perfect.
I don't know.
That is perfect. It's hard. Like, I know, even like on my own podcast, one of the people that I articled with, she went all the way through and to basically the equivalent of capstone 2.
Okay.
That's when you the cap, or I forget, mod 5 equivalent, and she didn't. And she quit and went to med school and is now a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Like, and she, in the back of her mind, knew she wanted to be a doctor. So, sometimes it.
Oh, sorry, keep talking.
No,
I
go
cut
ahead.
you off.
No,
No, but I
please.
guess that is the advice too, is that, I mean, still like, don't give up, but listen to your inner self too. And I mean, I feel like if you know it's not for you, but don't just quit because it's too hard. Right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that really came through with your journey, is you you were like, okay, I don't know, but I'm going to go forward on a path. And then eventually you found your way to something, and you found those overlapping circles where you're able to put your skill set, your interests, and something that you're really called to, right? So no, I love it. Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you as well.